The Pan-African movement has always been about sovereignty and agency. First and foremost, chronic dependence, even on well-meaning partners, is starkly inconsistent with the aspiration of independence, sovereignty, and agency. And I therefore believe that we must take seriously the recommendations that have been made towards making our organization an organization that stands on its feet and an organization that is funded by us. We must all agree that it is time for a new financing mechanism. The reform of the multilateral development banks is no longer about if, it is when that is going to happen, so that we can eliminate the current structure that is unfair to the majority of the people in Global South and especially in our African continent. None other than the UN Secretary General himself has said that our continent pay anywhere up to 8 times more than our brothers and sisters elsewhere do. It is only fair that we have a financing mechanism that treats everybody equally. All of us have read about the animal farm, where there are some that are more equal than others. Our position is that we don't live in the animal farm, that we treat each other, and all of us are treated by a financial system equally. And all we are asking, we are not asking for one financial system that favors us. No, we are asking for a financial system that is fair for everybody. Agenda 2063 is our blueprint to deliver the Pan-African vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa driven by its own citizens, representing a dynamic force in the international arena. Therefore, it is more critical now than ever before that we marshal our collective consciousness, willpower, solidarity, and unity to fulfill our fundamental generational mandate of introducing Africa as a new global power, ready and able to provide leadership towards a new industrial age that shall simultaneously usher in an era of inclusive development, shared prosperity, and effective climate action. We must therefore capitalize on the institutional reform momentum at the Africa Union to pursue the complete development of effective capacity to deliver Pan-African transformation. To do this, self-reliance, ladies and gentlemen, is essential. And a fit-for-purpose institutional architecture is indispensable at the AU. At the moment, over 60% of our program's budget is financed by partners. The demands of our challenging time require an AU that can pursue multiple urgent and critical interventions using internally mobilized resources. This is why we must make progress in exploring, developing, and implementing solutions like the Kigali Decision, AU Decision 605 of 2016. Similarly, you may want to know that that decision has now been implemented by 17 countries. We need to persuade all our other brothers and sisters in the other countries to come on board so that we can do the responsible thing and fund our own organization. Similarly, it is time to free up the Africa Union from structural and organizational constraints including duplication and other inefficiencies, thereby facilitating it to be effective on a greater scale. As a starting point, defining the roles and functions of different organs and instruments more clearly is unavoidable. The coordination, administrative, and implementation mandate of the Commission, the legislative and oversight function of a strong Pan-African Parliament, and the political leadership, ownership, and broad policy direction of the Council all need to be reflected more clearly through rational structural delineation. I hope, it's my prayer, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, that we finally make the right decision and build an organization that is fit for purpose, that has the requisite finances, the needed voice, and the leadership that can project Africa's position much more clearly with a strong voice so that we can take our place in the community of nations. COP27 was a turning point of tremendous magnitude because it brought home to the peoples of Africa the imperative to reconfigure our model of engagement with global and multilateral frameworks in general, and the urgency of projecting a new place, role, and voice to define Africa's contribution to global development and climate action. As we reflect and deliberate upon President El-Sisi's account of his commendable use of COP27 to facilitate the emergence of a fresh Afrocentric perspective to climate change, it is vital that we resolve to do even better and go much further at the forthcoming COP28 by taking on board a more robust position and proposing a transformed and inclusive global approach to tackling the climate change crisis. This is why it is important for us to pay special attention to the Africa Climate Summit, the first ever in our continent under the AU, which will take place here in Nairobi between September 4th and 6th. The summit, coming after the Paris summit where greater clarity emerged, will be a critical opportunity for us to accelerate global energy transition and deliver African solutions to the COP28 in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. When we return to Nairobi in September, therefore, our sole business will be to mobilize and converge around a common position and advocate for global alignment on a green growth agenda complemented by a transformative global climate finance compact. Your participation in this summit must therefore anticipate your stronger participation in the Africa Climate Summit. And ladies and gentlemen, as we come to that summit, there are two very important things that as a continent we must harmonize, consolidate, and package our collective position. We must have a collective position on matters to do with debt and liquidity. Part of the challenges we have of liquidity, part of the challenges we have in debt distress is actually caused by an unfair financial architecture that makes us pay interest more than others. Today, we have a debt stock of $640 billion as Africans, paying close to $70 billion every year. If we had a fair financial architecture that treats everybody fairly and that does not profile Africa as risky, we would be paying less than half what we are paying today in debt repayments. So we are simply asking that we have a conversation, a candid conversation on having a fairer financial system, and that is why the reform of the multilateral development banks is an urgent necessity. And secondly, that we were left behind in the fossil fuel energy industrial development. God, in his own wisdom, has put Africa at the center. We have climate change as an existential crisis to humanity. But also, we have green energy, which we have renewable energy, which we have in plenty, as a development imperative to be able to go into the future. That puts us at the center of the solution of the crisis of climate change. And that is a conversation we want to come and have in Nairobi, because Africa, apart from having the greatest stock of renewable energy, we have other assets, minerals, that we have the largest reserves globally that can be used for green energy development. We have the largest reserves of uncultivated arable land that can drive, according to Adesina, my brother, we can increase grain in our globally by up to 100%, maybe even 200%. We have the youngest population, the youngest global workforce in our continent. Ladies and gentlemen, we have what it takes to provide a solution for both decarbonization, taking the world into green industrialization, and also ensuring that we decarbonize everywhere globally. So those are the two things that we must focus our attention and be able to position our continent appropriately. And that's why I said earlier, we need a fit-for-purpose organization, and we need to fund the organization ourselves. You all know it is said, he who pays the piper calls the tune.